Hey, yo, Josh, let me get a little bit of reverb. Yeah. J-Will. Yeah, I'm about that lifestyle. I talk green work, repping it all over. It's right on the t-shirt, been for a lifetime. Yeah, that's a long path. Figure I would show some love right on the podcast. Turn this up loud and make sure you don't do nothing else. Cause if you're listening to us, then you're improving your health. My name is J-Will. Welcome to the show, yeah. Wrestle, flow, 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 yeah.
What is going on here? We're on Love Wrestling. You know me, I'm Josh Robertson. I release videos every week for Love Wrestling. You know the sound of my voice and my face at this point. This guy over this side, I should say, is one Mr. Kevin Carroll. If anyone doesn't know who we are with Wrestling Reverb, you see our logo up in the corner over here. Wrestling Reverb was my baby for nearly 2 years. I did wrestling, well, over 2 years I did Wrestling Reverb, and Kevin was my co-host. Spencer's like, hey, let's do some Wrestling Reverb on Love Wrestling. And I'm like, great idea. It's WrestleMania week. So welcome in, everyone, to a very special edition of Wrestling Reverb. I know I don't do this every week anymore, but it makes it more special when me and Kev can actually get together and chat some wrestling. What better time, Kev, than WrestleMania? We are less than a week away from the 2-night extravaganza. But first and foremost, we don't get to talk every week anymore, so catch me up, Kev. How's things going in your life?
Man, they're going pretty good. First, let me just say how jacked I am to be here. Jacked to be here on Love Wrestling. If anyone here is solely a Love Wrestling fan, doesn't know anything about Reverb, I'm excited to be able to put my voice into your ears for maybe the first time. Yeah, it's been like 3 months since we last talked, roughly 2 or 3 months, and since then I've been pretty busy. Working, watching wrestling when I can, pretty much, not more the same, but yeah, WrestleMania week, it wouldn't be WrestleMania week if we didn't get the band back together for it, and there's just so much to talk about. I've been so excited for this ever since you reached out the other day. I've been like getting through work, like gotta power through the shifts, like we gotta get to Thursday, baby, and here we are.
Yeah, so we're recording this, by the way, everyone. This will be released on a Monday for Love Wrestling. So anything that happens on SmackDown this past weekend that you watched, we can't. If anything changes, you know how WWE is. It changes every 5 minutes. So this has been recorded before SmackDown. Just putting that out there. So if anything,
I blew the surprise.
It's okay. It's okay. I needed to tell everyone that anyway, because people are like, why are they talking about this when every match got changed on night 2 to night 1? I'm like, listen, there's
a third night now. They didn't even talk about it.
And there's like 4 nights of WrestleMania. They're all going to be 8 hours long. Yeah, so this was being recorded before SmackDown. So just putting that out there. But it is WrestleMania season. It is so crazy that we were saying this just before we started recording, Kev, but a year ago we were gearing up for a WrestleMania with no fans, a 2-night event. And I don't know how I watched it. I really don't understand how I watched it, how we're gearing up for this year. Whether you think it's time for people to be in stadiums or not, again, we will leave that at the door. But we are getting fans for this WrestleMania, 25,000 approximately each night for WrestleMania. I am so excited that they could literally stand in the ring and slap each other for 15 minutes, and I'm pretty sure I'd be like, fuck yeah, we have a crowd.
Oh, I'd be losing my mind. Yeah, it's been a long road through all this the pandemic and everything. Yeah, WrestleMania last year, it's crazy that they pulled it off. Hats off to them for getting us through that and then getting us through the next year or so after that. And now here we are. We're going to get fans back in the building. And yeah, honestly, like go out there and have like an arm wrestling match, play rock, paper, scissors, sing. I don't care. I'm here for it. And I know the fans in attendance are going to be here for literally anything.
Yeah, I am. I'm just so excited that we're getting this kind of just this atmosphere back, because the Thunderdome does help, and the AEW shows with a small crowd and the NXT with a small crowd, of course they do help, but there's nothing like that feeling of 20,000 plus people in an arena or a stadium to get that energy and get that crowd response. That's something I'm most looking forward to. We're just going to roll in here. There's not really too much we can talk about other than WrestleMania. It's going to be interesting to see everyone's going to get a reaction because it's just like they're going to be more over than ever. But it's going to be interesting to see who gets the cheers, who gets the boos, when we've been in this time where a lot of people have switched alignments. A lot of people have face and heel differences now. And it's going to be interesting to see the reactions of Roman Reigns. Will he get cheered? Because of his work in the last 6 to 8 months has just been like top tier work. Will he get cheered? Will Edge get booed? Will Edge get cheered? People seem to turn on Edge for some fucking reason. Daniel Bryan's the same. A lot of people seem to really be disliking Daniel Bryan now, and I don't understand how. But it's just going to be interesting to see these people. I'm interested to see the dynamic between Banks and Belair. I think that's going to be a lot of fun because, like, where is the crowd going to lean? And that excites me. It adds that third element to these matches that we've missed because, like I said, yeah, the Thunderdome does help, and it certainly does add an atmosphere that the PC shows just couldn't. And I am very grateful that we've got something out of a no crowd era is the Thunderdome, and it does. But it's nothing. It's night and day different to having real people in the audience. It's just going to be weird to go from WrestleMania back to Raw in the Thunderdome, and we don't have that interaction again. But we'll get back to fans in arenas before we even know it. But it adds that third element. How much have you missed real full crowds in wrestling?
Oh, dude, it's honestly, yeah, like shout out to the Thunderdome for getting us through the last half of the last year into this year. It has been a big difference from that going back to like the no crowd PC, no noise at all shows. Those were tough, but yeah, but wrestling, and we've talked about it before on the show. Wrestling, the crowd is more of a factor in wrestling than it is in any other sport. It's actually part of the experience. It's part of the match, really.
Yeah.
Wrestling crowds could swing matches. They could influence matches. They could influence performers. And we don't know how they're going to react to literally anybody. Like, are they going to react? You talk about Reigns, Edge, and Bryan. I'm looking at the other side. Like, how are they going to react to Lashley and McIntyre? McIntyre has been, was champion for so long, and he got pretty positive reactions from Twitter and from everyone, but it's different. And Lashley was someone who, until recently, really, no one really cared much for Lashley. Obviously, he wasn't doing a lot of important things, and then suddenly he got white hot. So I'm excited to see how they react to him. And there's up and down the card, there are a lot of people that I'm not sure how we're gonna hear. But I think honestly, it's gonna be positive for almost everyone. I think Roman Reigns is gonna get like an ovation.
I hope so, because he's done some really just fantastic work. Best work of his career in a lot of sense in the last however many months since SummerSlam. It's crazy that it's been since the first Thunderdome show, he has been back. And he's just been killing it with main event Jey Uso in his corner and Paul Heyman walking alongside, flapping his gums as only Paul Heyman can. But it's been a lot of fun. It seems like where WrestleMania, at least for me, more so than ever, I know it's always the kind of like bookend and then, the new season of wrestling starts up on the Raw after WrestleMania. But it really does seem like a chapter is ending at this WrestleMania and we're like, hey, we have fans again. And it seems like that SummerSlam to WrestleMania run is really kind of summing up nicely in a lot of ways. And then, Raw happens and we're on a whole nother year of wrestling. But it just feels a little different this year, maybe just because of fans and because of the world that we're in, because we still are in a pandemic world. It's so funny. I remember doing a Wrestling Reverb show last year with you, Kev, leading into WrestleMania 36. And it was like, there was a certain anticipation for that show because it's like, how are we going to do this? How is it going to be 2 nights of wrestling with no fans? And yes, we got through it. I'm grateful for the pandemic in a lot of ways. Cinematic matches became a big thing, and 9 times out of 10, they all knocked it out of the park. So we wouldn't have got that in a main event sense if we didn't have the pandemic. I'm trying to find the silver lining here. We still got good wrestling. If you go through and actually watch WrestleMania 36, I remember Charlotte and Rhea being a really fantastic wrestling match. Bryan and Zayn, a fantastic wrestling match. The list goes on of these great wrestling matches. But like I believe you said at the start of the show or before in our little pre-chat, imagine these reactions to these matches with a crowd. And now we kind of get a sense of that in a lot of ways going into this WrestleMania. So it is, the anticipation is flipped here in a lot of ways. It's like, holy crap, we were anticipating this and how are we going to do it? We did it. And now we're anticipating just the fact that we have an audience for these people to risk their bodies for it and just go out and get reactions from a fan. I can't wait to hear a crowd count along with a pin. I can't wait for that. I can't wait for a crowd to be chanting all the random things that they chant. Usually I hate when they take over matches and chant things, but I'm like, just chant whatever you want. I don't give a fuck. Just make noise. That's all I ask, is just make some damn noise for these performers, because it's going to be a journey. It's going to be a trip just to be like, oh my God. And it's going to be interesting. You always want a main event WrestleMania. It's the goal for every wrestler, I could only imagine. But I would kind of want to be like the first person that gets an entrance on night one, just to be like, holy crap. I do think it's going to be Drew and Lashley, and then Banks and Belair are going to main event. I think they said that Banks and Belair is the main event of night one. I think they said that on SmackDown last week, I believe. I could be wrong, and WWE changed everything. But I'm a proponent, if you're going to have two nights, the Royal Rumble winners should be main eventing each night. That's just me. The traditionalist in me loves Royal Rumble winners main eventing WrestleMania. That's the whole point of the Royal Rumble. So if you have two nights, you got two Rumbles, they should be main eventing. So I hope Drew gets that first entrance, to be completely honest with you. He kind of deserves and has earned that right, I think.
Yeah, he really has been such an MVP for the company through the pandemic era. Like, he put, for a long stretch, he basically put the WWE on his back. So he does. I think that he will get such a big pop that he would be a really great first choice for that entrance. But yeah, like, obviously the opener on WrestleMania is pretty important, like most years. It's not like it's like ever a throwaway match.
Oh, no.
But this year, more than ever, you have to start off hot. You have to start off with someone who's going to get like as big a reaction as humanly possible. I think McIntyre, it probably fills that like criteria better than anybody.
Yeah, I really can't think of another match on night one. I know they've kind of delegated night one and night two. By the way, they've split up the cards very well. They've kind of placed stuff where you'd think you would go and you go, okay, there's a wrestling match on each night in the Owens and Zayn, Cesaro, Seth, they're split up. Bad Bunny's on night one, and to kind of, I don't have a problem. I think we've talked about celebrities in wrestling before, Kev. We probably have at some point, but I've always been a big proponent of like having them in as long as they love wrestling. Bad Bunny clearly loves wrestling. I'll give him that. And he clearly puts in his work. He's there 9 times out of 10 every single week.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty clear that this dude is a fan of wrestling. There's certain celebrities that come in, you're like, yeah, you don't watch wrestling and you don't understand. You're just here to cash a little bit of a check, which is, you can't hate on it. I would do the same thing if I was a celebrity and was able to make extra money. Sure. But when people like Maria Menounos come in and it's like, okay, she loves wrestling. You can clearly see she's a fan of wrestling. And Bad Bunny, clearly a fan of wrestling. There's just so many that you see, and Bunny's got it. But let's talk about Bad Bunny and The Miz, because it certainly has its opinions. You know how wrestling fans are. Some wrestling fans absolutely hate celebrities in wrestling. But we've seen different songs from Miz and Morrison. What I'm most surprised about, though, is that it's Bad Bunny and Miz one-on-one. We're not getting a tag match.
Yeah, first off, the song was so good.
It's catchy.
Hey, hey, hop, hop. I'm not surprised. Those two are just so, Miz and Morrison are just so funny, and they're so good together.
They are.
And yeah, Bad Bunny, and there's a really easy way to tell how much he really wants to do this and how much he loves to do this is he shows up every week.
Mm-hmm.
There have been celebrities that like have shown up and they want to be here and they love the business, but when do they ever show up week to week for like 2 months? That's what really stands out to me about him. Singles match, you wouldn't expect it. You probably thought it was going to be Bunny and Priest versus Miz and Morrison.
Yeah.
I'm sure those two will be involved in some form. It may just like sort of break down into chaos. That's kind of what I figure. But props to Bad Bunny for being here. He showed up at the Rumble. He took the dive off the turnbuckle at the Rumble right away. That's when I knew.
Hurt himself.
He almost died. But that's when I was like, okay, he's not just here to sell records and cash a check. He does want to be involved. And as far as celebrities overall in the business goes, I always think it's kind of cool that like people that are outside the little wrestling bubble, like that are especially someone like is internationally popular as Bad Bunny. I
Yeah.
know a lot of wrestling fans will be like, "Oh, who's this guy?" He's like the most popular recording artist in the world, like on
You look
Spotify
at his
streams. He's number
Spotify
one.
streams, he's like millions and millions and millions and
Yeah.
millions. Like this dude, like I like when I heard his name, I'm like, I've heard that where have I heard that name before? And then you just search him up and you're like, oh, okay, he was in that Cardi B song. He has his own music. He's been everywhere. He's all over Saturday Night Live, from my understanding. Kev, he's a lot of
He was on SNL.
he's
He
on a
brought the
lot of
belt
American
too.
television. Yeah, like that shows me that he's committed to what he's doing, because you don't have to take a wrestling championship onto a Saturday
Yeah.
night. Like I'm assuming, I know Saturday Night Live isn't like the end all be all, but that's a pretty big deal still, is it not?
It's a big like pop culture. It's like it's a very endearing part of pop culture. It's been around for 45 years. Everyone who's like anyone who's probably been on it at some point. Yeah, he didn't need to bring the belt, but he
No.
did. He had it there, and they tweeted a picture of him with the belt on stage, and I'm like, okay, it's cool. Like they're not treating it like a joke. They're treating it like kind of important, even though it's a 24/7 title. But it's still cool to see that like celebrities and people outside of the little bubble we live in as wrestling fans, people are aware of it, and people like obviously WrestleMania sort of transcends just wrestling fans. Everyone sort of knows about WrestleMania
Yeah.
and sort of keeps tabs
Yeah.
on it. Like, I have friends who aren't wrestling fans, but they might want to watch Mania. They might want to, at least know who's the champions, who's, what's the story going in. But yeah, good for Bad Bunny for wanting to be here. And I don't know if he's good. I don't know. I'm not saying he's going to put on a classic, but I think that might be kind of fun.
Yeah, and Miz is the perfect kind of foil for that too, because Miz is that kind of character that, listen, we seen Miz cash in. We've had a whole cash in and a whole title reign come to a start and end in the time that we've talked since before the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Miz winning the title, and a lot of people are like, he had an 8-day reign. I'm like, but that fits Miz's character. Miz was the perfect person to put in between to get the title off of Drew onto Lashley without either one being hurt from that situation. And it's like, Miz is that character that can lose and then win the title again the next day, and it makes you're like, yeah, it's Miz.
Heels lose. That's what they do. And the
Yeah.
Miz is like, I don't think anyone, like, would we all have been really satisfied if the Miz carried the WWE title into Mania for, X amount of days? I don't think that was ever going to be the plan. I think he worked it perfectly.
Yeah.
That cash in, I don't know, like, why it hit me so hard. I was watching the show. I was watching the show live that night at work, but I was like, oh, I'm pretty much done with everything. I had the volume turned up, so I was essentially just watching it unimpeded. And yeah, when he came out, I just was like so like viscerally, I was like, oh my God, no way.
Me too.
I don't know why. It like made sense, but in my head I was like, no way they're doing this. And I loved it. I know people were either like loved it or they hated it. I was like, yes, this is the best thing they've done in so long.
Yeah, I was really excited. I remember I watched Chamber on my own, I want to say. I don't know if I was on my own, if I was watching it with people on Discord, because apparently that's a thing now because we can't fucking sit in the same room with people still. But I was watching it. I think I was on my own. I just had my Snapchat on and I was like, oh my God, The Miz is the WWE champion. And as soon as like it all kind of happened the next night on Raw, I'm like, Miz is going to be WWE champion for a very short time. But it was like perfect the way that Lashley took it off of him. And Miz is a coward chicken shit heel. It just makes sense for him the way he did it and put Lashley into a stratosphere. Let's talk about Bobby Lashley for a minute, because Lashley has come in and is just from in a span of 2 or 3 weeks, I've gone from not really caring and not being really too fussed on what Lashley does outside of just the Hurt Business's kind of stick. I really didn't give too much of a shit about Lashley. And then all of a sudden I'm like, Lashley is the man, and this has been 16 years too fucking late. As in the sense of like, holy crap, it's finally happened and he's the WWE champion. Why didn't this happen 16 years ago? Like, he is the man at the moment. And it's making me very conflicted on things with WrestleMania, because I'm like, I want Drew to have his moment with fans and the Claymore and the 1, 2, 3 and all that. But I love Lashley as WWE champion, and I'm kind of in this weird kind of state of mind. I'm like, oh, I can't have both things here, because I would love Lashley to be a dominant WWE champion for quite a while.
Yeah, I think I'm probably pulling for Lashley here. No offense to McIntyre, because you're right. He kind of does. He does deserve it, but like Lashley doesn't deserve to lose. I don't think
Exactly.
that's the quandary. Yeah, it's crazy how like even when he first started with the Hurt Business when they first formed, obviously it was a little bit better for him than what he was doing prior, and I think he would admit to that as well.
Yeah.
But even then, it was still like you didn't feel like he was like, all right, well, maybe it's something to sort of reboot him and maybe get him somewhere where maybe he challenges for the United States title like he did, and then all of a sudden, like, and MVP, God love him, just deserves so much credit for
Yeah, really does.
rehabilitating and sort of making him into a serious monster. Like, look at him. He's the size of a house.
Yeah.
He's so fast.
Yeah.
He's got like great his look, like his
Mm-hmm.
facials are like so good. Like when he gives you the wide eyed stare, like it's scary. He
Yeah.
really does like fit the bill, and like he seems like someone Vince would love. So yeah, I'm a little surprised it took this long, but now he's here, and now he's the champ, and I think you run with it. I think he could be the champ the rest of the year, and I would be satisfied. Throw everyone at him and have him beat them all down.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same as you. It's so conflicting. It's like I do love Drew, and I am glad that Drew is still in this spot where he can and float in and out, and it doesn't feel. The thing with Drew that I like the most is that when he talks and when he cuts his promos or whatever you want to say, I genuinely believe what he's saying, and not
Mhm.
everybody has that. He has a believability that I'm like, yeah, I can tell how much you want this. I can tell how much you love this, and whatever you're spewing out, I just get. Like, there was this bit on Raw this week where Lashley put like a bounty on his head, basically. Like, if you can take out Drew, you can have the WWE Championship match at WrestleMania. And there's this thing on Raw where Drew walked into the back and they were all kind of there, like a heap of talent was there, and he was like passionately saying like how much he loves this business. He's like, you want to take me out? Then let's go. Take me out. If I was in your spot, I would be capitalizing on this opportunity. Why is no one attacking me? And it was like his presence, and there was just something about Drew in that moment that I was like, I get what you're saying. I understand
Oh,
because
yeah.
you were in that spot 2 years ago where you weren't the WWE champion, and you could genuinely tell that he was like right on the cusp. It was like right happening, and it's like, okay, like when is Drew going to be able to take this opportunity? And everything that Drew did in those years before WWE champion, from his time he come back at NXT to the time he was WWE champion, he put 110% in, and he could just tell whatever he was working with, whatever he was doing, was just him. And he was never a non-version of Drew McIntyre. Every incarnation has been Drew, and there's just something so believable about that. Now, I'm not saying I'm the biggest Drew mark in the world. I think I've said that many times that I'm not his biggest fan in the world, but there's just a believability that he has that not a lot of, I can't really, it's like a handful of other talent that I believe what they're saying, and it's like, that's you. I get it. I understand what you're trying to portray to me. And I just think that's a little bit of a lost art, especially in WWE.
Yeah, it really is. It's so sometimes there's just guys that they're going through the motions. You know that they are characters on a wrestling show, and then there are guys like Drew who you believe are wrestlers, are guys who want this more than anything in the world. Not to disparage anybody else, but like, yeah, Drew. When Drew talks, you listen. He's always been good on the mic, but obviously, like this most recent run where he's had the chip on his shoulder, because when he first came in, you call him the chosen one, you elevate him right off the bat. He probably didn't feel that way, but after getting fired, coming all the way back through NXT and everything he was doing before, he sort of went and did his own thing. You could just tell he was busting his ass night in and night out because he knew that he wanted to be the main event. He wanted to be the top guy, and he knew how hard he needed to work to get there. It wasn't going to just come naturally like he thought it might have before. He had to put in that work, and he did. And here he is. He's going to be wrestling for the WWE title at WrestleMania for the second year in a row.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Another thing that's very believable is one Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is somebody who has, like we said, has just been on a path of destruction for the last 8 months since SummerSlam, however long it's actually been. But we're gearing up now for what is now a triple threat match: Daniel Bryan, Edge, and Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship, the main event of night 2. Probably the best spot on the card out of both nights. It's like you're ending WrestleMania. This is the last match that we will see of WrestleMania 37. It's a pretty good spot to be in.
Yeah.
Very well placed. There's nothing else to me that's bigger, and there's nothing else to me that's had more investment than this match. So, rightfully so. Now, Edge, of course, won the Royal Rumble. Both of us did not choose Edge. I remember us doing a Rumble show like a week prior. We did not think Edge was going to win. I was not mad that Edge won. Some people seem to be for some reason, even though the same people that were creaming their jeans for Edge coming back the year before were now complaining because he's going for the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship. I have no problem. Edge is great. Edge is another person that I genuinely believe in. Forgot how good of a promo Edge is, by the way. Edge can cut a fantastic promo, and this kind of weird gray area Edge at the moment where he's just Edge. He's not a face, he's not a heel, he's just Edge. I love that Edge because, let's be honest, Edge is a fantastic heel and a good baby face. But Edge in that role where he's kind of a bit crazy and kind of a bit unhinged, that's the Edge that I love, and that's the Edge that makes him one of the best for me. But you add in the element of Daniel Bryan now, and a lot of people are like, why is Bryan involved? And I don't understand that when Bryan was the most over thing in wrestling 4 or 5 years ago. I don't understand that either, but I love triple threats. I've said that many times that triple threats are probably my favorite stipulation, gimmick, whatever you want to call them. Just my favorite variety of match is a triple threat. When they're fantastic, they're off the hook. They can be awful, but that's the element of wrestling I love, is like, it could be awful or it could be fantastic. Now, these three guys, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a pretty fantastic match, and I think the crowd is going to be very much a guiding factor in this of who gets cheered, who gets booed. I think it's just going to be loud, and that's what I love. Another thing that I love about this match, Kev, is that I cannot tell you for certainty who is going to win this match, because I can see it all, and I'm happy with it all, which is even better. I'm like, whoever wins, I'd be fine if Roman Reigns retains. He's great, top of his game. If Edge wins, fuck yeah, it's Edge, man, it's Edge. And if Daniel Bryan wins, oh my god, Daniel Bryan is the Universal Champion. Like, that is bizarre to me, especially since all three of these men have had, for different reasons, times where you didn't know if their career was going to continue.
Yeah. It's like crazy. The coolest thing in the world, honestly, that you know, if you told me in like 2017 that this was going to be the main event in just 4 years, and like two of these dudes were literally retired, like never coming back at that time. And at that point, I think people were like pretty sick of Roman. So to think that these three guys have not only all been, you know, given clean bills of health, but have elevated themselves. Roman Reigns is doing the best work he's ever done. I agree with you in that. And Daniel Bryan, you know, is just always at that level. And then Edge coming back after 9 years off, you know, and then getting hurt again after a couple great matches last year, the greatest wrestling match of all time. Getting hurt again and then coming back again, winning the Rumble, going like 60 minutes, and then he's in this position and he's still doing such good stuff. Like, yeah, dude, I don't care who wins, honestly. You have, no matter who is holding the belt at the end of that match, it's going to be like an iconic moment in WWE's lore for years. You either have Roman Reigns solidifying his spot, you have Edge in the main event of WrestleMania after, you know, being retired for X amount of years, and Daniel Bryan getting back to the main event of WrestleMania. It's awesome. Awesome. Sometimes you tip your hat to WWE. They did it.
Yeah, it's a really good story, and I've loved. You kind of still watch pay-per-views, don't you? Every time you don't watch every Raw and SmackDown, but Fastlane with that. By the way, it's that Fastlane main event was so good, Bryan and Roman, and that kind of element with Edge with the chair and all of that kind of stuff. It's so just. I love the kind of twists and turns. That's what WrestleMania stories are about to me. The twists and turns along the way from the Rumble to WrestleMania, especially when it's involving the Rumble winner. And they've done this just so well. Everything has just been so expertly laid out. And it seems for once, now I could be wrong, and it's WWE, so no one probably agree with me. Seems for once they had a clear plan of Rumble to Chamber, Chamber to Fastlane, Fastlane to WrestleMania. that doesn't always happen. There's usually stuff that gets like, it's just like, yeah, do this, do this, do this. It just seems like everything's been really like nicely laid out. And that's what I love so much about this triple threat. The match itself, I have no doubt in my mind that it's just going to be off the chart great because of the 3 people in it. None of them people have bad matches. They just don't.
Yeah. And think about it, like WrestleMania triple threat main events are like never bad. They really aren't.
No.
And obviously, you don't have to tell Daniel Bryan that. He was in possibly the best one ever, depending on who you ask. WrestleMania 30, definitely one of the best main events. Technically, Roman Reigns was in a triple threat main event the next year, if you want to count those last couple minutes as a triple threat. Oh man, and I'm not worried about the match quality. 3 guys who know how to go to Mania and put on an absolute classic of a match. 3 guys who love the spotlight, who don't shy away from the moment. Oh man, yeah, we got lucky. We are so lucky to have that match going on to end the 2-night extravaganza.
Yeah, it's just like I'm processing what you're saying as it's hitting my brain. I'm just like, we're less than a week out from WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's cool.
It's so. I'm just so excited to have fans again. I'm just so genuinely excited to see it.
I'm really happy that no matter how busy we all get, no matter how many times we can't watch week to week, WrestleMania week still hits so different. Like it's such a rush. No matter whether you watch every show every week, you watch pay-per-views, maybe you don't even watch it all, but WrestleMania week is just such a euphoric week. Everything is just that much better. Raw and SmackDown before Mania are going to be amazing. You had the Hall of Fame ceremonies coming up. Like, oh my God.
Hall of Fame. Let's talk about that for a minute. My love for the first inductee announced for the 2021 class, Miss Molly Holly, my favorite wrestler of all time. It nearly made me cry. I was like, yes, finally. We're nearly in that group of women that I watched in the Ruthless Aggression era, that you watched in the Ruthless Aggression era, that we all kind of grew up with. Nearly all of that group of women is inducted with the, other than Victoria and Jazz, nearly that whole entire group is inducted. And one thing I will say about this 2021 class, it's making me feel kind of old because it's all the people I watched growing up and I'm like, oh, they're all getting inducted now. It's like RVD, Kane, the Great Khali, Molly Holly.
Yeah,
it's
dude,
like
it's a great. It is. It's awesome. I've had that same thought as I'm watching the Hall of Fames for like baseball, basketball, football, and we're getting to the point in those sports too where it's like guys that I watched, like guys that I grew up watching are going into the Hall of Fame. It is very odd. It's a very bizarre feeling. And yeah, now we're here in wrestling, and even they had to take Batista out, but that was the one for me. I was like, Jesus Christ, that's like one of my favorite wrestlers ever. And like, how old am I?
Yeah, Batista's stuck in this country at the moment. He's living in Sydney at the moment, so he can't get home because of the pandemic.
He might be better off.
Yeah, it might be just lay low for a little bit.
But yeah, he might be better off.
But let's touch on how we've had many conversations about the very polarizing twins that went in the 2020 class that got inducted. I believe in the last couple of days there was pictures on the internet that they filmed the Hall of Fame, at least for that class. The Bella twins, a lot of people don't seem to think that they made any impact. We've talked many times about the Bellas. You know how I feel about the Bellas. I think they're 2 of the most important figures in mainstream women's wrestling. People will not agree with me that. I will argue that all day. They've done more for women than a lot of your favorite wrestlers have done for wrestling in the sense of a mainstream appeal to get more people into watching wrestling. The Bellas have done that. So even like them and the 2020 class of the NWO and everyone else that was inducted in the 2020 class, it's just a very good group of people. And it's like every year I always say like, oh, this is the best class. No, this is the best class. And then it's just like, how do you top it more and more? But
it really speaks to how spoiled we've been watching all these people. Like there's just been so many great wrestlers that really deserved it. Like they really do. Like all the I know people will probably say, and you just said it with the Bella Twins, people will always claim, oh, this so and so is not deserving, so and so shouldn't be in. There really aren't that many wrestlers that are in the Hall of Fame that like didn't have Hall of Fame careers. They don't
Yeah.
really, you know, and if you want to say it's like the Bella Twins, oh, whatever, maybe their in ring star rating average wasn't great or whatever, but like I think you could argue that more people outside of wrestling know who the Bella Twins are
Yeah.
than any other female wrestler ever, because they had the show on E. Nikki was on Dancing with the Stars. Like they were everywhere. They are everywhere. That's the reason women's wrestling was able to get so much traction, was because people outside of wrestling were sort of beginning to notice it. If Total Bellas and Total Divas doesn't come along, I don't know if any of the revolution/evolution stuff happens.
I completely agree with you, and I know we could go into it like a lot of discussion on this, but it is something to be said. I'm not, if I was ever a big enough personality to have my own tagline, I'd like to call myself the casual hardcore fan, because I'm someone that like watches, lives, breathes wrestling. Like, I know I'm crazy. I still watch every Raw. I still watch every SmackDown. I still watch every Dynamite. I still watch every NXT. Like, I'm trying to watch as much as I can, but I try to watch it from like, and understand why they're doing something. I'm like, that's to get a casual person in, so I'm trying to like, I enjoy it for that. The Bellas to me were always that, especially in their second run more so than their first run, when they were just kind of like, in that time of the Divas era, but then coming back and coming on Total Divas, and then Nikki becoming what she was, and Brie becoming what she was, and them having their own separate identities. But like, you could pinpoint and be like, oh, that's for the E audience that are like, okay, I watched the Bellas on E, I'm going to turn into Raw, and this is what I want to see. It's like, okay, I get why they're doing that. And I was just a fan of the Bellas. I like their presentation. I like the way they kind of evolved in wrestling. And I think they were the kind of bridge to get to where we are now. And now we're going into WrestleMania. We've got two very kick-ass matches that are going to go down for each women's championship, along with some tag team titles that I'm sure they seem to be building to, and hopefully something else, because there's a lot of women that aren't on the card that I'm like, I'd just like to see them, like Bailey and stuff like that. I just think are very deserving to have a spot on this card. I'd like to see a battle royal or just something for those.
Yeah, I was gonna say we had that women's battle royal concept a couple of years ago. Obviously, last year battle royals really weren't a thing you could do for safety reasons. But if we're getting back to it, that was always a great idea to get people who deserve to be on the card. And the women's title
now
match,
than ever, especially now more than ever with fans. I just want everyone to get a slice of it.
Yeah, I think everyone deserves to share in this moment, honestly. If there's ever a year to like pack the card, this would be the year, because it's not just like a wrestling show. It's like a welcome back to sort of normalcy.
Yeah, after the year that we've had. But like we said, the two women's title matches, let's talk about Asuka and Rhea Ripley first. It seems to be we're on a little bit of like a plan B here, because of all of the stuff that went on with Charlotte Flair testing positive for COVID, and then the stuff with Andrade, and we don't really know what's going on there. So now, I will say, we're recording this, and a lot can happen in the next week. We don't know if Charlotte Flair's going to walk out on Monday Night Raw next week, or today, I guess, in the time of release, and say that she's in the Women's Championship match, because that could easily happen. It could happen 2 minutes before the match is starting, and Charlotte Flair could come out and be like, I'm on WrestleMania, I'm in this Women's Championship match. Now, I have no problem with Charlotte Flair. I don't believe you have a problem with Charlotte Flair from memory. We both are fans of Charlotte, so I would have no problem with that. A lot of people would. I wouldn't. I like Charlotte Flair, and I think she's a very great performer. But let's not talk about Charlotte, because this isn't what we're getting at least at this time. Rhea Ripley coming in and debuting and just kind of saying, I want a championship match against Asuka. The match itself, I mean, I have no doubt it's going to be very... in the contrast of Belair and Banks, they're going to have the flashy, athletic, fantastic wrestling match. Mm-hmm. These two are just going to beat the hell out of each other.
They're going to just clobber one another, and it's going to be amazing. Have we ever seen Asuka and Rhea really lock up?
They've never touched.
Oh, that's...
Maybe there was a women's Survivor Series match a couple of years ago. Do you remember when it was like the three, like it was like 5 on 5 on 5? Yeah. They may have touched there, but other than that, I don't believe they've never touched in a Rumble. I don't remember. I think Rhea's only been in one Royal Rumble, and Asuka wasn't in that. So I don't quote me if I'm wrong. People can come at me if I'm wrong, but from my knowledge, they've never touched.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Even if they have, it wasn't like a memorable thing. This is, probably their first one-on-one encounter, and what a stage for it. I saw some people when Rhea showed up on Raw the other night and was just sort of like staked her claim to the belt, and I saw people being like, "Oh, well, why does she get a shot like that?" That's like something that's happened in wrestling so many times, and that's why I love it. I think that in real sports, you can't just show up and claim the World Series without playing a couple of games, but wrestling is different. You could literally do that, and it makes sense. Like, who's hotter right now to put in that spot than Rhea Ripley?
Especially when Charlotte's out, there's not really a
Yeah.
lot of options. Like, people are like, oh, Naomi should have got this, and Lana should have got this, or Shayna Baszler. It's like, but they're all occupied in other things, and it doesn't. I don't know. There was just something about that, like with Rhea and Asuka. It's the first time ever. It's Rhea's first one-on-one match on the main roster. It's everything that you kind of want with WrestleMania. And it's just a contrast of styles. And I think a lot of people have been ready to see Rhea and Asuka.
Oh yeah, I think we've all been waiting on Rhea. And here's the thing: like, if Rhea showed up 6 weeks prior, wrestled a couple matches, but then didn't get the title match, people would be mad in that instance too. I think she's the absolute perfect person to put in this spot. Whether she wins or not, I don't really know. Asuka, maybe isn't ready to drop the belt. I wouldn't be mad if she didn't drop the belt because she's awesome. She's literally one of the best in the business.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm pretty happy. Either way, it's like it's going to be interesting. But yeah, it's going to be very physical. If there's two women that in that company, or just two people in that company that aren't afraid of being a little snug in there, I think it's these two, because those two seem to just like physicality.
Yeah, stiff shots, and like Rhea obviously has like a whole power arsenal and that she could work with too. She'll have the power advantage, but Asuka has the striking advantage over like literally anybody. Like the hands and the kicks are so tough to defend. It's gonna be a lot of fun, honestly. And Asuka at WrestleMania, like remember, a couple of years ago she had that match with Charlotte Flair that was insane, so good.
Asuka has never won at WrestleMania. She is 0-3, 4. Never won at WrestleMania. Speaking of never winning at WrestleMania, Sasha Banks never won at WrestleMania. She is taken all L's.
Yeah, never won. I guess not.
It'd be interesting to see if they add another add a 1 to that win column for either of them, because I would probably put my money on Banks losing more than Asuka if I was a betting man, just because of Belair's rise and the Royal Rumble and everything like that. But it's not set in stone, because Sasha Banks is someone that's slowly breaking that ceiling of like, is she getting into the mainstream? Star Wars helped that a lot, I think, with her ability, and she has this certain Sasha's not the same Sasha that she was 3 years ago. It's a different Banks in that ring, and it's a different presence and confidence that she uses. I don't know if you've gotten the opportunity to watch any of the Broken Skull sessions on the network with Stone Cold, but Stone Cold did an interview with Banks. Great chat, by the way. Everyone go check it out. I guess on Peacock over there for you.
Oh, jeez.
The WWE network for me, but Peacock for you. I believe it's on the Peacock version. I want to say they put all their original stuff on Peacock.
I'm pretty sure it is. I was browsing like last week when they first started it, and they don't have a lot of stuff that I wanted to watch. But I'm sure it's on there. And
I'm sure it's on there.
Yeah, and Sasha's she's a star. Mm-hmm. She is an absolute star. The way she carries herself, the way she talks, like she knows she's hot shit, and she absolutely backs it up every time she's in the ring, on the mic. And yeah, like she's in the Mandalorian. She's got that mainstream presence. Like people know who she is. People, I have friends who watch the Mandalorian, and they're like, "Oh, who's this?" And they start checking her out, and they start looking her up and seeing what she does in the ring, and that's how you bring people in. It's one-on-one. It's wrestling one-on-one.
Yeah, it's but it is a different. She said in that interview with Stone Cold that she's like, there's a time to be thankful and grateful that you're a part of a company and you're a part of something that you wanted to for so long. But then there's a time where you go, yes, I'm thankful, yes, I'm grateful, but I'm also very good, and I know what I'm worth, and I know what I am to this company. And it's like, a lot of people see that as cockiness. I see that as confidence. It's something that I aspire, and I'm like, okay, That's what I want to be. I want to be that. I understand how good I am and being thankful and being humble and being like, thank you for my opportunity. But also, yes, this is my spot because I'm that good. I'm
Mhm.
that good at
There
what I
comes a
do.
time there comes a time where you have to stop being just happy to be here and just, take like Sasha's way too good to just be sort of, oh shucks, and maybe she wrestles a tag match here and there, and she's just happy go lucky. She's too good for that, and
Yep.
she knows that. And I think maybe she didn't realize that for a bit,
Hmm.
but now that we're here, if everyone in, not even in wrestling, just in general, if everyone realized their self-worth, like we'd all be in such better places because
Yeah.
everyone, a lot of people just tend to be like, oh, and just, they're grateful, they're thankful. And you don't have to stop being grateful or thankful to realize, you deserve better, you deserve more, you
Hmm.
deserve to be, the main event like Sasha does. Sasha, if anybody is going to main event WrestleMania night one, like Banks is the perfect candidate. She didn't get to last 2 years ago. She was not in that triple threat. She got to watch Becky and Charlotte and Ronda do it. I bet that pissed her off, right?
It would
I
piss
bet
me
that pissed
off.
her off just a little bit. You could be happy. You could be happy for your friends, but still be like, damn, that should be me. And now she gets that shot, and she does not miss these shots. She does not blow these shots.
Yeah, Banks is someone like Austin asked her in that interview. He was like you're number one on Sports Illustrated for 2020. Does that surprise you? She goes, no, I'm the best. I should be number one. And it's like, that's the mentality a wrestler, let's just talk wrestling here, should have. If you're not in this business to be number one, I think you're in the wrong business. My opinion, I think you should be striving to be number one. And when you are
Oh
number
yeah,
one, it shouldn't be like, oh, someone's better than me. No, let's get in this mindset of like, if I'm number one, it's because I'm very good at what I do and I've earned that spot. I've earned the
hmm
right to say that I'm number one. I think that's why a lot of people can kind of get pissed off at maybe Banks or even Charlotte Flair saying that. It's like, if Charlotte Flair says that, everyone comes out to get her. It's like, no, but she should be saying that she's the best.
yeah. You should be. It's every business. You should strive to be number one. If you're striving to be just one of the pack, like what are you doing? No one. That shouldn't be anyone's ceiling. Everyone should want to be the best. That's just the nature of the beast. And Sasha, I think she's got such a valid claim to that. She's been consistently great for
Mm-hmm.
years, even in spots where maybe that were a little beneath her talent level. She's excelled in every facet of the game for so long. Like why shouldn't she say she's the best? She's backed it up for years.
Yeah. Let's talk about Banks and Belair now that we've put Sasha over for the last 10 minutes.
Oh, love her.
Belair is probably, I would say this. I know I picked Belair to win the Royal Rumble in our little chat beforehand. I don't believe you did. I think you said Rhea,
I'm
didn't you?
I'm pretty sure I said Rhea. I don't remember. I
Yeah.
may have said I said Sonya Deville, who wasn't even in the
Yeah.
match.
There you go. There you go. Which would have been
Which
great, but
I still think she should have been in the match. I know she's
I
doing a
agree.
great job as the authority figure, but she's also just such a good wrestler, and we should utilize that. But
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
neither here nor there.
But Belair won the Royal Rumble from number 3. A great performance, a great ending sequence
Oh,
with her and Ripley. Just
it
perfect Royal
was.
Rumble
Oh my
ending.
god, it was
The
the
women's
perfect
Royal Rumble,
last
by the
two.
way, was better than the men's, kind of by, I would want to say, a bit of a long shot. It was better.
I'd have to go back and rewatch. Honestly,
Fair.
it's been.
Too long.
And it was the first, it was the first no crowd rumble, and that was
Yeah.
obviously a bit of an adjustment, even with the Thunderdome crowd. Like the Rumble is built on those pops, and
I
you
know.
get them, but you don't get like them authentically.
No.
So it was a little weird, but the women's Rumble was really great, and that yeah, the perfect final two,
Mm-hmm.
like probably the two people you literally didn't know who was gonna win. They had so many close calls. I was sweating. I was like, oh my god. I had Bianca Belair in a pool I was doing with my friends, so I had a rooting interest, but it's hard to argue with the call. She's been great since then. On the road to WrestleMania, she's been a star.
She's just a superstar to me, and probably the most athletic person in that company. Just the stuff that she can do, and not even like Belair has not been wrestling for that long. When you think about it, I think it's been
No,
3 years, maybe.
yeah, she showed up, and they realized what they had kind of quick, and she caught on quick. It wasn't like they were
Mm.
throwing her out there green to the
Mhm.
gills. She was
Mhm.
good from day one.
Yeah, and there's really no other matchup to me that Belair fit more perfectly than with Banks. It's like the perfect partner. There's a size discrepancy. There's just different things and elements with those two that are like so contrast to one another, and it's like this is going to be a lot of fun. Also, a feather in the cap to be like this is the first women's championship match with two African American women in the same match. It's like it's pretty crazy that it's never happened, but it's
Yeah.
happening, and it's like a main event of WrestleMania. That's pretty damn cool to say. So, feather in the cap for some history and stuff, but the match itself, I mean, it has the potential to be something really, really special. Like, how good Banks is, and Belair, while we've seen her in she's kind of excelled in a lot of things, and I no doubt that this one will be another example of that, but she is a little bit of like untapped potential. It's like, what really can she do when the big stage, the bright lights,
Yeah.
the main event of WrestleMania? It's like, what can, sink or swim. This is your chance.
Yeah.
Whether you win, lose, indifferent, it doesn't matter. It's your chance to show up. I just think that I get excited over this match because I just know how great it can be.
Mm-hmm. It's a milestone, and it's gonna be. I have the utmost confidence in Bianca Belair. Obviously, this will be the biggest crowd she's ever competed in front of. NXT crowds didn't really run this big even when they were there. Her first Mania, her first singles profile, high profile spot, and I don't have any doubts. I think I think Sasha, as the ring general she is, will be able to call the game in there and do what they got to do. And yeah, she's the perfect foil for Bianca because she's smaller. Obviously, Bianca will be able to throw her around. Sasha sells like a champion. Even if Bianca doesn't win, which I think she will, I think I think we're on the same page. Even if she doesn't, she's gonna look like $1 million. And I'm just, I'm ready.
Yeah, me too. That I know a lot of people have been kind of iffy on the build with them going for the tag team titles, and I don't think it's been
Yeah,
the
I
greatest
get
thing.
that. It is something WWE just loves to do, especially on the road to Mania.
Like, can they coexist?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised they didn't pick up the tag belts at some point because they do love to do that. Think of all the adversaries that have held the tag belts, like Cena and Michaels, and Cena and Batista, and Cena and Otunga.
Cena in the roster.
Cena just doesn't lose. It's the moral of the story. But yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't take the belts off of Nia and Baszler, because that would have been a pretty. I don't think that would have been a good move for anybody involved. I don't think those belts need to be tied up in the main story. I think those belts deserve their own story.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they're kept separate, and I'm glad that we've kept Bianca and Sasha as true, even if they're not like blood rivals. They're true adversaries.
Yes, especially in the last week or so since Fastlane with the slaps.
The slaps.
Oh, that Banks one.
Oh my god, there was some mustard on both of those slaps. The Sasha, the one Sasha hit Bianca with, Bianca took it like such a champ. Just look, not only like going down, but like her eyes were like so wide going down. She was like so shocked.
Oh, she clocked her. Sasha's a very good slapper. She knows how to. She knows how to connect. There's really, everyone says that in wrestling. Every interview I said with slaps, they talk about Stephanie having the greatest slapping because it just hurts so much, because there's really no way to, you know what I mean?
There's
like,
no way.
You just got to do it.
No way to gimmick a slap. You just hit him.
you just got to slap him. And side note, I believe Brie Bella popped Stephanie's eardrum when she slapped her at Payback when she was like, I quit. Stephanie said that. She goes, the hardest I've ever been slapped is by Brie. Imagine slapping your boss in the face in a storyline and popping her eardrum. You'd be like, oh no, this.
Yeah, are you like you're like packing up your desk the next?
Yeah, it would not be a good day at the office for old Brie Bella. I don't think.
You got the box at your locker, like cleaning out your boots and stuff. But Stephanie's a pro. She knows that's gonna happen.
Very, very good. Love Wrestling, people. There might be a little video on Stephanie McMahon coming up very soon. Just
oh shit.
Just throwing it out there. But as we got to wind down. We could talk about WrestleMania forever. if you don't realize, me and Kevin are both very excited for WrestleMania for fans. So, like, many other things at WrestleMania, we got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn finally getting a WrestleMania match, even if Logan Paul is involved, but that's neither here nor there. Cesaro is getting a WrestleMania match against Seth Rollins, which has the potential to be the match of the whole week. Like, it has potential to be so damn good. Among many other things, we got AJ Styles and Omos going for the Raw Tag Team Championships against the New Day. AJ has the opportunity to become Grand Slam champion. I know a lot of people, a little bit including myself, was hoping for something a little more for AJ at WrestleMania, just because I don't know how many more Manias AJ has left in him. But, nonetheless, this match will obviously be very good because the New Day are in it, and AJ Styles is in it, and Omos, we don't know what... He's a big dude. He's a big man. So, it's going to be interesting.
They bring in 7-footers, but they're not actually... Like, they build Kane and Undertaker as 7 foot, but they're not really, like, that tall. They're not... Well, they're tall, but they're not 7 feet. This guy might be legitimately, like, 7'5". Like, when he stands next to AJ Styles, it's scary.
Yeah, it really is. By the way, I think you're like, are you leaning on your computer? You might be leaning on your mic. Maybe?
Oh, I might be. Am I?
Oh, you're still quiet. I don't know why.
I don't know.
It was fine.
I don't think I did anything.
You just went really quiet for some reason. Kevin's gone quiet, everybody. I don't know why, but he must be trying to get out of this show. He's like, oh, it must be the end.
Oh, God. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know either. You just went really muffled for some reason. I don't know why. Like, it sounds like you just, like, got your hand over your microphone or something like that.
I don't think I don't know.
I don't know. It might be a good point in to be like, okay, this might be the end of the show. It might be a sign that we need to wrap it up. But WrestleMania is exciting. The only other thing that I want to say before we end it all, and obviously Kevin can't really chime in too much because of his microphone, but I need to say this because I haven't had the opportunity to talk about it into a microphone in a podcast setting because I just don't do them anymore. You probably have realized, Kevin, that this probably was a very pivotal match for me to watch, but I've been watching AEW a lot lately. I'm kind of getting into Dynamite. I'm finally getting on that train, especially now with NXT moving nights. I'm very excited for the prospect of being able to watch both, not at once, and being able to watch both live on its own night. But Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa had a lights out unsanctioned match, whatever they called him in the gimmick. It's that match to me was one of the most important women's matches on television since Trish and Lita. I just think that match is so pivotal to look at, and we'll look back in 10, 20 years and be like, that match happened. It was the first time women have main evented Dynamite. Not only that, I've never seen, at least in a mainstream setting, two women have that kind of a hardcore match that we just don't get anymore. It's just not a thing that happened, and they just killed it, and it was just like such a feel-good, like, the blood on Britt Baker's face, that shot will stand the test of time more so than anything. And she didn't even win the match, but I think it was just kind of like this thing of Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. We knew how good Thunder Rosa was, but Britt has been someone that I think everyone has kind of clamored for to be like, why isn't she here in AEW? Why is she just kind of... And then that happened, and it's like, holy crap. It was just a very physically great contest, and it's just something that I just think will go down in the history books. Well, it will, because it's the first ever women's main event in AEW, but not only that, I just think it's just so pivotal. It's so pivotal for just women in wrestling and what else they can do, because they've done so much, and we just keep going and going and going. And I think AEW, realizing they were a little bit maybe behind, and it was a lot of the criticisms of AEW was its women's division, and that just kind of was just like, well, here's an opportunity for them to go and do something, sink or swim. And they did gymnastic stuff in the water, basically. Like, they knew what they were doing in that setting, and it's just so physical. I've never seen... It was just cool to see women be in that light of like, okay, you want equal... They can bleed. They can take thumbtacks. They can take table spots off an apron. Like, it's not just like for the gimmick of women wrestling. It's like, these are just wrestlers, and this is what they can do. So I just wanted to touch on that before we wrapped it up. I can see you're nodding along. I know you're probably still quiet, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yep, you're still quiet. I don't know why. I don't know. You were nodding along, so that to me says Kevin was in approval of like, yes, I agree. So, nonetheless, you've seen Kevin's Twitter handle at the whole bottom of this screen. You've seen mine. I didn't put the underscore in it because I'm dumb. But on the graphic, it doesn't have the underscore. But you know the underscore because I got DMCA'd. If you're only catching up, you know that iCarly got my Twitter account shut fucking down. So I'm Josh Robinson _00. So just note the underscore, okay? Note the underscore. You know where to go for my stuff at this point anyway. This will do us for Wrestling Reverb here on Love Wrestling. What a cool little opportunity. Kevin's smiling. He's doing this. Like, you can see him on the video, everybody. So it's not like you can't see him. He agrees with me as well. I'll plug his shit for him. Go and follow him at Kevin C Wrestling. He still watches wrestling every now and again. You know, it's not as frequent, but he still watches wrestling. Obviously, he's still keeping up with everything. You know me. I'm always tweeting some kind of bullshit. Just not putting any music in it. Because iCarly will come for me. And listen. I'm putting that out. I'm challenge. If Rhea can come out and challenge for a WrestleMania match, I'm challenging iCarly to a WrestleMania match. If I win, I get my Twitter account back. Thank you, iCarly. And she can bring her thugs and all of those people she has around her for her web show. I mean, this is kind of... I mean, I've got to say thanks, though, to iCarly, because this is the kind of premise of what iCarly was. Wasn't it a web series? Isn't this genuinely what we're all doing now? So thanks, iCarly, in 2008 for creating content creation. You are the inventor of content creation. So hats off to you, iCarly. But on that note, friends, you can, of course, like this video here on Love Wrestling. Give it a nice thumbs up. It helps us in the algorithm of YouTube. And, of course, slide your little mouse over and click that subscribe button. Hit the bell so you get notifications of when new videos for Love Wrestling are coming out. And all the podcasts they post here and everything that Love Wrestling does. All the links for Love Wrestling will be in the description box below. As well as all of my links will be in the description box below. I'll chuck Kevin's Twitter in the description box below. Leave a comment below if you're liking WrestleMania. I'll be responding to as many comments as I can, as well as Spencer, of course, who runs Love Wrestling. So make sure you leave a comment. Get us at us on Twitter at Love Wrestling CA. Talk to us about wrestling. We always want to talk about professional wrestling, whatever it is in professional wrestling. And of course, most importantly, ladies, gentlemen, my non-binary friends, enjoy WrestleMania because it's going to be so cool to have fans again. So enjoy WrestleMania week. Enjoy everything that WrestleMania week has to offer. And see you soon. Peace out, everyone.
Hey, yo, Josh, let me get a little bit of reverb. Yeah. J. Will. Yeah, I'm about that lifestyle. I talk green work, repping it all over. It's right on the t-shirt. Fan for a lifetime. Yeah, that's a long pass. Figure I would show some love right on the podcast. Turn this up loud and make sure you don't do nothing else. Cause if you're listening to us, then you're improving your health. My name is J. Will. Welcome to the show, yeah. Wrestle.